So, Olin, it's great to finally meet you. I don't think we've ever actually met, or I don't know, I've never interviewed you. I feel like I
Nope.
know you though. Like I'm good buddies with a lot of reporters out there, and everybody just says how exceptional of a human being you are. So it's an honor to have you on
Well, I
this Zoom
appreciate you
happy
saying
hour.
that, man. Thank you.
You got it. I mean, it's rare too. I mean, a player of your stature. I mean, all decades team, 6-time Pro Bowler on some just really, really good Bears teams that could have won it all. I mean, I imagine we'll get into that, but I mean, to be as down to earth and as humble as you are, I mean, it's rare, it's appreciated, and I mean thanks for doing this.
Yeah, no problem, man. I mean, I'm sure some people would argue with that whole humble part, but we'll go with that for this Zoom call.
I say that because I was like going through YouTube clips, today earlier on you, and one popped up. It was an interview you gave. It was a rough game against Minnesota, and they were interviewing you right in the locker room, and like they're giving you every chance to use an injury as an excuse, or did they throw something at you on film you weren't expecting? You're like, I'm 100% healthy. I played like shit. Tom Waddle's like, well, I guess we'll go to commercial.
I remember. I think Dan Jiggets did that interview.
Yeah.
And I just after games, I mean, the great thing to me about when you play ball, and I know you guys love football, you guys cover it, but the great thing for me always was the fact that, I think we could use it in life more, that the film does not lie to you, right? So as a ball player in the NFL, I always tell people, I'm like, imagine at the end of your day of whatever job you do, someone took you in a room, put the video on, and just told you how much you sucked on everything you did throughout your day, right? So, old ball players, we know how to take criticism, and I know like that film's coming out anyway. So why bullshit the guy at that
moment? I love that. Instead of saying, "Well, I gotta wait till I see the film." I mean, you knew what happened.
Oh yeah, some games you play as much as I played. Some games are bad games, man. Some games. Sometimes you're the hammer and sometimes you're the nail, and I'm pretty sure I got my ass handed to me that day.
Oh man, well, we just kind of this is just a free flowing thing. So if anybody wants to chime in at any time, just do it. But looking back, I mean, at your career, Olin, what do you want people to remember you most as? I mean, when they think of your name, when they think of your teams, what do you cherish the most?
I think that I guess if I brought myself to really thinking about it, or another word, caring about it. I guess you said I played the game the right way. I had that much respect for football. Football's given me everything I got. I always loved the game. So, all the accolades are great. But just the fact that I hope that you lined up every day, gave everything I had. And to me, it's a great game. That's why it really does teach a lot of character traits that you need in life, right? And it's helped me really. It's everything I have is from football, so I want to be remembered. And I always tell people, there's guys who play football, and there's football players. And I tell my boys this: I say, you got to make a choice. Either you play football or you're a ball player. And by that I mean the guys who play football, they like being on the bus, they like having fun with everybody. They like being on the team. But ball players, man, we're just waiting for the game, waiting to rip someone's head off, or get your head ripped off. Like, you enjoy both parts, both aspects, both everything about the game. You just love it. You can't get enough of it. So I guess by that definition, I hope when people say my name, they say, man, the guy's a ball player.
I don't know if fans realize that too. There are players who play just because they're good at it, right? Like it's a paycheck, and you punch in, you punch out, and you're talented. But I mean, there's guys like yourself that genuinely love it. Like you kind of, I would think you'd have to love it with the physicality that's involved in the violence and getting your head ripped off.
I think guys love it. And I think, it's funny you mentioned that, because I think that guys don't realize, even if guys think they don't, when they leave, they realize how much they missed it and how much they miss being in the huddle. And it doesn't matter what part of the game you love, right? Like, I guess I love the competing part, the hitting part of the game. Obviously, I used to love the chess match. I used to love studying defenses, trying to figure out what they were doing to me, trying to get an edge on them. I used to love that part of it. But, whether you love the locker room, whether you love being in the huddle with the guys, eventually when you leave, you're going to miss something about this game, man. And you're going to miss it. And you're not going to find it anywhere else. You're not going to find 70,000 screaming fans. You're not going to find airplanes flying over your head. And you can't go into Starbucks and fall and rip somebody. So that's all a problem.
I love it. Well, hey, I know we got a couple Bears fans in here too. Okay. Jason Jordan just stumbled in here. Went to college with him. I know he's a massive Bears fan. Let's hear it, Jason.
Oh, I'm terribly underprepared, and my wife is making all kinds of noise putting groceries away. So,
well, I had to put you on the spot. Had to do it.
I got a family of 6 kids here at home, so don't worry about the noise in your house. I'm good.
All right. Well, come back to me, and I'll have something good. I promise.
So, Olin, I remember watching you and thinking, thank God the Bills weren't playing you twice a year, because I always thought you were like tough as nails. Always played to the whistle. I would always say, that guy, man, if we played against him all the time, I would say he was cheap. But you were always playing to the whistle. You always. I remember seeing you clearing off piles, and all that type of stuff. But so to look at you now, I could never imagine that you were a player. What are you doing to stay in shape? And did you have a struggle to stay at playing weight?
It's funny about, first of all, the Buffalo Bills in the year 2000. I don't know if you remember, their nose guard was Ted Washington. But what a lot of people don't remember is who their backup was. So the backup that year to Ted Washington was Pat Williams. Okay. So that was probably the hardest game I ever played in the NFL, because when Ted went to take a break, Pat Williams came in, and Pat obviously was learning from Ted, and Ted eventually came over to the Bears. And by no accident, that year was my first Pro Bowl year, because I'd go against Ted in practice. And if you ask me, Ted should be in the Hall of Fame. 18 years playing in the NFL. I think one year in Buffalo, I think he had like 120 solo tackles as a zero nose guard. That's insanity, man. You know what I mean? I think Spillman was playing behind him, and John Holisek. And actually, John Holisek is my son's coach now at Loyola. Anyway, that's a long story, but so yeah, I starve a lot now. I try to keep my weight down. I was actually, if you can believe, I was 290 as a junior in high school, and I would lose weight to 275 to wrestle and then get my weight back up. So I was heavy. I think I was over 250 by my sophomore year in high school already. Pretty much my senior in high school, about 285, 290, kept that weight all the way through my career. So cutting down on meals obviously is a lot. Low-level cardio, all the stuff you learn about, right? That you have to do different that you did as a football player. Obviously, there's no camp, drink 12 beers and eat 2 Whoppers and eat chicken nuggets and zesty sauce. I used to love the zesty sauce from Burger King at camp in Kankakee. But, it's a lot of work that goes into it. But like you guys know, it's no mystery, right? You got to eat less and you got to move more. So that's pretty much what I do now. I own a private gym. I train kids and some NFL players. So I get to get a workout in there a lot of the times, and just kind of try to stay up on my health, because I realize I'm in a marathon now, man. I'm trying to get to the finish line. I know what a lot of former players look like, right? And hopefully trying to beat that stereotype, trying to stay up, trying to stay healthy, trying to keep moving.
Can you just elaborate a little bit on Ted Washington too? I mean, you're right. Man. He is one of the more underrated players in the history of the game. I mean, what made him such a force in there?
First of all, I understand the thing I'll say first, because I don't want to take away from his game. He was extremely smart. Okay. He understood the game, and he understood by what formation you were in, what play you want to run. So Ted was a student of the game. He was a student in how you were trying to block him. And that's how he would coach me up on, okay, Olin, that works. This doesn't work. But obviously, he was a massive man. I mean, he was 400 pounds, right? And I think, they had a weight for Ted, but I think Ted was a good negotiator, so he'd negotiate with the strength coach, and I think his weight was 380, but I don't think Ted ever really made that weight. And I think Ted, you'd have to ask Ted, but I think I remember, he was left-handed. And if you can understand that now, when you snap the ball, Ted's left hand sticks to that side, right? He would play almost 2 or 3 yards off the ball. And it was almost, even when you blocked Ted, he wasn't blocked, right? He was gonna make the play. He covered about 3 gaps. But I remember one thing I learned from him that I used throughout my whole career is that with big guys, you had to block him in stages. But that, I mean, with Ted, I had to almost on run plays. I wasn't going for his chest. I knew I had to hit his elbow and work my way into his body and then work him off the ball. So he was a tough man to block, man. And like I said, stopping the run meant a lot to him. I remember him coming in the locker room and he was just screaming at Urlacher, like, if I'm gonna hold all these guys up, you better make the effing play. So it was cool. But you guys remember that defense now was Keith Traylor, right? Traylor was a big man also. Was Brian Robinson, rest in peace, Brian Robinson. He passed away. Philip Daniels, right? Philip Daniels came from Seattle. Anyway, that defense gave up, I think, under 12 points a game. I'd have to go back and look. But they were extremely good. Greg Bloch was a defensive coordinator. But anyway, like you just said, I mean, Ted was good in Buffalo. He was good for us. I remember we won a game that year. We weren't very good for a while. The Bears weren't. I got here in '98. And everybody was so excited. It was like the second or third week of the year, and Ted screamed at us, and he was like, "You guys need to act like you expect to win a regular season game. This is not the Super Bowl." So he kind of changed our culture, kind of taught some of us, me included, Brian Urlacher. He taught us how to be leaders. He taught us how to lead in the locker room, and I can rave about Ted Washington for an hour.
I love it. I can't get past the fact that dude's it's 400 pounds. Like, how do you play 50, 60 snaps a game? Like,
and he was a wrestler. You know what I mean? And he was a wrestler, and he didn't play in the, I think, gosh, what was the Albert Hainsworth, right? Albert Hainsworth for the Titans. He was a guy, if I remember correctly, they started playing these guys. Like, he played like 15 plays a game and got like 20 million a year or something way back in the day. Albert was a monster. I think it was Albert Hainsworth for the Titans, maybe not. But Ted wasn't one of those guys. Ted played like you're saying. He played 50, 60, 70 plays a game, man. He was something.
Man, well, I'll shut the hell up. I know we got other people here.
All right, now I'm ready.
Oh, sorry.
Hit me with it, man.
Ready when you are. All right, so could you give us your thoughts on the prospect of the Bears moving out of Soldier Field and kind of paint that picture of what it's like to play there? Is it set up well for today's game, or are the rumors true? And also, do you believe in ghosts, and is that place haunted?
I don't know about it being haunted, but I'll tell you this. I would prefer to play in the city of Chicago, obviously. I mean, that's where I played 13 years in my career. There's something about being a Chicago Bear, obviously, but politics always get involved. Money always wins, right? So now I think, my best guess is that the fact that gambling is legal now, why wouldn't an NFL team build a stadium and build a casino right next to the stadium and just make as much money as they would want to make? But me, preferably, love playing in the city of Chicago, love the skyline, love driving down there. Obviously, the history of the Chicago Bears and just being in that stadium, that's what I would prefer. But, when you have a mayor and a team president and money's always the bottom line, I mean, we'll see what happens.
Well, the mayor wasn't nice.
You said you didn't know it was haunted, but do you believe in ghosts?
No, I don't.
Okay, that's fair.
Really? You don't believe in ghosts?
I don't.
Okay, all right.
Why, Owen? I want to know why.
I just have so much going on. Really, I just don't even contemplate that in my mind most of the time. So I'm sure even if a ghost is right next to me now, I don't got time for him. He's got to leave me alone, man. I got things I got to do.
I like it.
So let me ask a question. You talk about, you keep going back to you have 6 kids. You just dropped one off to Illinois. You got one playing in Loyola. What is it like to look at your boys and think that there's even if it's a little prospect, what is it like to you to be able to turn back and say, if these boys do it right, they could be in the league too? What is it like to be able to sit back and watch everything unfold?
Well, it's awesome, to be honest with you. It's awesome that, like, you can't force people to play this game, right? This is a tough game. Like I said, I was a football player and a wrestler, and they both are football players and wrestlers, and they enjoy it. They love the game. My younger one will be a linebacker this year for the same high school. So they love the game. And that for me, I was lucky. And they train with me in the weight room now. So I had to spend a lot of time with them. And you can teach them life lessons through football, right? And a lot of times these kids nowadays, they don't get out and socialize very much. They play a lot of video games. They're always on their iPads and their iPhones. But when they get in that huddle and they get around coaches and they have to learn how to talk to people and how to work together to a common goal, that's really what you're looking for in football now. And people have asked me for years, do I think my boys will play in the NFL? The hell if I know. I really don't know. That's not why we're playing the game. And I told them they have 2 requirements from me when they play this game. They're going to play it the right way. They're going to play it hard. My older boy knows as an old lineman, like I got accused of earlier of running down the field and clearing the piles. That's required. That's required, or you better not come home, right? So this is what we do. And, that's to me, that teaches life, and that teaches everything you need to be successful. Say whatever job you take, you can take football to it. So I enjoyed them playing football. I'm lucky they did. And, just to answer your question simply, for me, it's awesome.
I think Dan or Derek was chiming in there, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry if I interrupted one of you guys.
No worries.
I think that was Dan. I didn't say anything yet.
I haven't said anything yet either, but I did want to follow up on what you just said there. Can any of your boys outlift you yet? Have you gotten there where?
Yeah, they can. My older one definitely can. It sucks, man.
You want to close the door?
I talk a lot of trash, man. So when they outlift me, they're happy about it, right? So when I outlift them, they hear about it constantly. So I'm just looking for one lift a day where I can get something. Obviously, you guys know how long I played. So, I got things I deal with to get heavy weights up, but I go for it just to compete with them. But quite simply, yes, he does. And if he sees this, he'd be very happy that you asked that.
Clearing the pile. I mean, you got to be a little dirty, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to have that element to your game. We got to hear a couple war stories. What's something that happened in the trenches that, you can talk about now that you probably couldn't talk about then?
Well, I will tell you guys this. I used to have this little thing I used to like to do where I act like I was falling, but I was actually kneeing guys in the ribs on the pile. And I thought it was cute, at that time. And the game was totally different back then, right? I mean, it was a give and take. But I think Colin Cole was his name for the Packers. Good nose guard. I don't know if he ever started, but he backed up, and tough guy, tough player. And one day he caught me with the same move, on the pile. And that thing hurt like hell, man. So it's one of those things, I don't know if your parents, they hit you with something and if they accidentally hit themselves and they realize they shouldn't be using that. I kind of realized at that moment, maybe I shouldn't be using that knee to people's ribs.
So you make it look like what did you say? You make it look like you're just
falling, right? Yeah. Someone's on the ground and they look like this and you kind of fall on a pile and drop your knee kind of right on that, that part where there's no meat covering, right? There's no meat covering those, they call it that floating rib there. And I used to catch people there and you could tell, it took some wind out of them for a little while. You're always trying to get body blows on these monsters that we played against. But, and another one I do remember, and it's funny because you more remember when guys got you than when you got people. But I remember we got a quarterback sneak on the Steelers. I think it was 2005. Casey Hampton was a nose guard. And this guy was, gosh, man, he was a handful. But I don't know. I didn't even know where to block him, to be honest. He was so huge. But we got in. I obviously, I had a few words about getting the quarterback sneak for him and, that he couldn't stop me. And so the next quarterback sneak, we lined up. And of course, when you talk like that, eventually you're getting the 4th and inches again, right? Because you're now Casey's fired up. And he hit me with a forearm rip to my face mask. And I got to find the film. I know I have the film. He knocked me out. I was out for about 10 seconds. Yeah, that's how strong that dude was. So
a concussion right to the head.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was a concussion, but I went out and it was something, man. That guy was a powerful man.
Was there an adversary? Was there a familiar foe that you just went at it with several times.
Yeah, Pat
over.
Williams. Pat Williams, when he
Yeah.
ended up in Minnesota, we went at it a lot. He had a lot of good games against me, to be perfectly honest, now that I'm away from the game. He was a handful. Whenever we played against Pat, the funny thing was the strength of my game was probably my quickness, my angles, my speed, my leverage. But every time for all my years in Chicago, we were a power running team. So we ran right at the nose guard, right? We ran downhill. We didn't really have, per se, like a Kyle Shanahan outside zone scheme. I remember going to the Pro Bowl when Alex Gibbs, I don't know if you guys know that name, but Alex Gibbs is the, I don't want to say the architect of the outside zone because I don't want to get into an argument with all kinds of people calling me. But since I know so many offensive line coaches, they're going to tell me they made it up and I made it up. But anyway,
a lot of
Alex
egos.
Gibbs is
A lot
probably
of
the most
egos.
famous O-line coach for the outside zone and the Broncos and Mike Shanahan's scheme. And Alex was my O-line coach in the Pro Bowl for that year. The Falcons lost the NFC Championship game with Vic. And he looked at me, he was like, man, if we had you in the outside zone scheme. And I told him, I said, that's what I'd love to play in. Just run side to side and reach guys. But that wasn't my, I didn't get to do that. So we ran power roll, we ran Bob, ISO, inside zone. And that's right up Pat's alley, right? And you got to move Pat Williams if you're going to run those plays. So, I think one game he had 10 tackles against me for a nose guard. That is something, man. But he was hard to move. He was very hard to move. He had fast feet. He played you backside. He'd make the play. But we went at it. I think he called me overrated one game. The funny thing about Pat is we went on the field and you would talk trash to him. I think he had a problem. He would stutter sometimes, so he couldn't really get it out back at you. But so on the field, there wasn't much back and forth. But off the field in the papers, there was always a lot of talking, and there was always a lot of bad feelings, even to the point of one time we were talking so much trash against each other. Lovie Smith, I think this was 2005, we had the Panthers, but we had a bye. And Lovie told me he wanted to keep me out of the game because I had an ankle injury the week before. And Lovie said that I want to keep you out of the game. I don't want these guys taking dirty shots at you. And I said, Lovie, over my dead body. Over my dead body, am I going to sit out of this game? You are not keeping me out of this game. I'm playing against Pat Williams. I don't care if this game means nothing. I will not sit out against him.
Hey, Olin, was it Pat Williams who accused you of calling other players to keep him out of the Pro Bowl?
He might have been. Pat always would say those things about the Pro Bowl. And to be honest, Pat belonged in the Pro Bowl. And if he knew anything, he knew my vote went to him. But either your pass rushers get to the Pro Bowl, right? Pat never had sacks. It's kind of like Ted Washington. We talked earlier about Ted not being in the Hall of Fame. That's the problem, right? The guys only look at sack numbers and getting to the quarterback. And if you look at the Pro Bowl, I can't find the last time a run stuffer, a guy who just stuffed the run, was in there. But I'm sure it was him. I'm sure he always had something to say about me, and I'm sure he accused me. If he knew anything, he knew a lot of people didn't like me. So if I actually called and said that, they may actually vote for him.
Hey, well, I'm a huge fan and love the No Name podcast too. So keep up the good work there. My question for you here is, what would be your preference for the starting 5 offensive linemen for the Bears this year, knowing just what we know now?
Well, first of all, I appreciate you saying that about the No Name podcast. We enjoy it. Jason McKee does a great job also, my partner on there. So, but my starting 5 this year, I hope Tevin Jenkins is who they think he is. I hope they can move him to left tackle because they have a bunch of right tackles on their roster. They don't have a left tackle on their roster right now. They have Tevin Jenkins, and that's about it. If you ask me, Alex Bars is their next best left tackle if you look at their depth. I don't think Elijah Wilkins is a left tackle, and Jermaine Ifedi definitely is not a left tackle. He proved that in Seattle. So that guy is a key. Tevin Jenkins, their draft pick, is a key to that line coming together. I'd like to see Cody stay at left guard. I thought he played at a high level last year. That they moved him there, and I thought Cody Whitehair didn't have to think as much anymore. I thought that he could just play guard, and I thought he was dominant there. I'd like to see Sam Mustipher. Now, listen, I'm going to give you my bias here. Sam Mustipher and Alex Bars train in my gym. I'm not going to lie to anybody. I've been training them for years. Obviously, you're only going to hear me say good things about them. I've known them. Harry Heastan is a very good friend of mine, and he had me down in Notre Dame through those guys' young years, and they kind of stayed with me through the time. So I think Sam Mustipher is really good, though. I think he processes information at center. I think he can really help. I think Nagy said he was looking for a multiplier in his offensive huddle. By that, he means he wants guys who makes guys better. And I think Sam's one of those guys. I think he makes Cody Whitehair better because he gets everybody lined up and going in the right direction. I think he's going to keep improvement. I like to see James Daniels at right guard. I thought James was their best player last year. I thought he was their second best player on offense before he got hurt. I think he has Pro Bowl talent. I think he can be an all-pro player, and that's what that line needs. They need guys to get a lot better and play at a Pro Bowl level. And then probably Jermaine Ifedi at right tackle would be their best five, would be the guys they got to go with. Obviously, Jermaine always has to show that he's going to stay in shape, that he's going to stay, he's going to stay part of the plan and part of the process and make himself better every week. But for right now, when I look at it, that's their starting five. I don't really think there's any argument. And I think that Tevin Jenkins is the key, man. He's got to be able to play left tackle.
All right, thanks.
That's a short answer for you.
Real quick before I forget too, I found a Chicago Tribune article from 2005 here. Pat Williams' agent suggested that Kreutz mounted a conspiracy against Williams, who never has been picked to the Pro Bowl. And quote, "I wish I had that kind of power," Kreutz said. "I'd put all my teammates in the Pro Bowl. I must have made him mad, stole his cheeseburger or something." So
I thought I remembered that.
Great line.
Yeah, listen, man. I mean, and like I said, we laughed so hard in the meeting about it because Reuben Brown was a really good friend of Pat Williams from Buffalo. Yeah. And Reuben had known that I had voted for Pat for the Pro Bowl. And he was like, "He's so stupid, man. Why would they say something?" I said, "Well, I mean, but I think at that time he was trying to get into the Pro Bowl and any coverage is good coverage, right? So just mention and try to get yourself votes. And hey, look, if you ask me, the dude belonged in the Pro Bowl, so I had no problem with it. I do think he was mad about one less cheeseburger, though. That's also a possibility.
That was quick. It's good to get a little jab in there, right? Keep it going.
Man, people always ask me, "Oh, you do radio now, you do all this stuff," and I say, "Man, the gym I grew up in, my grandfather had a gym. We trained under his house for years." And Dominic Raiola, I don't know if you guys remember the name. Dominic Raiola was the Lions center for 14 years. He was my best friend. We grew up about 2 houses from each other. Wow. So I've known Dominic since I was 5, right? So what are the chances of 2 best friends, both playing 14 years in the NFL at center? But we've known each other all year. His mom and dad are like my second mom and dad. But so we trained there for years, man. And I just, that gym, man, if you didn't have comebacks, you just got torn to pieces, right? So we were talking trash constantly. My uncle Bruce, my mom's brother, that guy, I just went home and he was firing on all of us relentlessly. So, comebacks and talking trash and all that kind of stuff, that was old hat for me.
I wish we had more of that. I love it. Sorry, Don.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, like, you were talking about your boys, either they're ball players or they're football players. What's it like when you have a guy like on your team or even on the line with you who is not putting forth the effort or has the intestinal fortitude that you believe is required to play the game? How do you deal with that? Like, do you address it in the locker room? Do you just let it go and say that's the way the guy is? Or like, here, you want to win and this guy just wants to check?
Well, it's a really good question, right? And it's frustrating, first and foremost, but there's a lot of things that go on in a lot of guys' lives. And I think, to be honest with you, 100% honest with you, I probably handled it in a lot of different ways while I played, right? And some was probably wrong. A lot of it was, teasing and talking trash to guys and trying to get them fired up, trying to get them going. But every guy's different. And you got to find, if a guy's in the NFL, if you're talking about just the NFL, now high school is a totally different situation in college, but if you're talking about the NFL, every guy's there for a reason. These guys are high-level guys. Now, you don't make it there by being a bad football player. So you got to find what does motivate them. You got to find, not every guy you can treat the same. Some guys you get in their ass, right, and that works. Some guys you do that and they go into a shell and then you don't get anything out of them. So you got to figure out what works for them. Some guys, they don't care until you show them you care about them. So sometimes you got to do that too. And that's just part of being a leader. And that's the great thing about the game of football is that it teaches you how to deal with all kinds of people. But to answer your question, it's frustrating, man. It really is frustrating when someone is not giving what you think is their all. But usually if you do some research, talk to them, sit down, there's a reason. And if you can get to the bottom of it and they get the best out of them, that's how you win a lot of ball games. And you're seeing a guy who, in my opinion, is probably the best winner of all time in Tom Brady in Tampa Bay. That is his special skill. And you can see him. You can see him do it. You can see him raise everybody's level around him. Obviously, he's a great quarterback. But, at the end of the Super Bowl, I remember they were talking to him, and he said, that's enough with me. Talk to these guys behind me, right? They're the reason we won. And that right there shows you why he wins Super Bowls.
I mean, Olin, I talked to Tim Jennings recently kind of about that all. And, he played with Peyton Manning, and then he played with Jay Cutler. And basically everything you're saying, that he said that Peyton Manning was that, and that on the defensive side of the ball, he didn't get that sense from Jay. I mean, you played with Jay. You guys crossed over a couple years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, was he lacking that? I mean, was there just a leadership?
When I was there, and I can't speak for the whole time he was in Chicago, right? But when I was there, yes, he was lacking that part of his game. And some of it, I don't know if he was trying to find his way. We had a lot of guys in that locker room who were there for a while, right? And we were there, but that part was lacking. But some of it also was that Jay had all the physical skills. But these guys too, like Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, they do what I like to call, they live in the matrix now. They see things you don't see, and they see within 10 seconds, okay? And the thing about everybody at this level, you put them on a grease board, and they're extremely smart, and they'll give you every detail of the play. And if the defense does this is what I got to do. But on the field, the thing is constantly moving, right? The defenses are constantly shifting. There's all kinds of shit going on. And Jay, he wasn't one of those guys. He didn't live in the matrix. And that to me, if you ask me why he didn't win a lot, was what held him back. And some of it, to be honest, man, I don't know if you can teach people that. That's why there's only 2 or 3 of them in the league every year, right? Right now, like you'd say Rodgers, Mahomes, Brady, Brees retired. There's just not a lot of guys who can do that. So, leadership comes with it. But look, man, if you're winning, if you're really good, that goes to leadership. If you're frustrating guys by not getting the ball to the right place, you don't know where the blitz is coming from. You don't know how to redirect the line on a blitz. You don't know how to protect yourself. And then all of a sudden it turns into, okay, this is his fault. Well, why didn't the quarterback know? And it just turns into a finger-pointing festival. And then at the end of the day, all it was he couldn't do those things.
Were guys pissed that he didn't tough it out in that NFC Championship game? I mean, that's
I don't
always
think so.
a touchy thing.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think guys thought he was injured. I think guys thought he injured his MCL. I think some guys wanted him to come back, to get in the game, to give it another shot. But I think he did. I don't know if, I played that game. If you ask me honestly, 100% honestly, if I held that against him, it's no. I thought his knee was hurt. I thought his knee was injured. In the first half, I think he missed 2 or 3 touchdown passes that bugged a lot of guys, right? We are offensively, we obviously struggled in that game against a very good defense. I think they only gave up 11 points a game too. That Green Bay defense, I think, was number 1 in the league. They were excellent. That's why we went to Green Bay already the number 2 seed and tried to knock them out. Lovey didn't want them in the playoffs because of that defense. I mean, Aaron Rodgers was good, but that defense was superb, man. They were really, really good. Charles Woodson, B.J. Raji, I mean, you name them, they had them. Ryan Pickett, Clay Matthews, they just had all kinds of dudes on that defense. So they were good. They were shutting us down. Capers had a great plan for us. But that question, he was injured that game. You'd like to see a guy give it more, but I think he did. And, I have an MCL before, and it's a frustrating injury. And to be honest with you, I missed 4 weeks because it's not really painful, but you can't plant. You can't plant on your leg. You can't put any weight on it. The thing gives out. I used to describe it like it's like your legs doing a hula, right? It's like the knee just keeps going back and forth. So I missed. That's why when I heard it was an MCL, I was like, well, that I understand. I think I missed in 90. No, 99 is my first year. Sorry, so in 2000, I missed a bunch of games for an MCL. Oh, I tore both MCLs that year to a second, third degree. So I missed a bunch of games that year. And I had an MCL before. So I kind of understood that.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, it's a tricky injury. That's
It's a weird
strange.
injury.
And
Yeah.
Caleb Haney brought you back, I guess, right?
He
Gave you
did,
the best
man.
chance.
We were on that, and I think Lovey was going to go for it, from what I understand. You'd have to ask Lovey, but I think he decided that he didn't want to go into overtime with the Packers, so we were going to go for two. I think we were inside the 30. I know that, and we were running double slants with Johnny Knox and Devin Hester, if I remember correctly. Skinny post. I'm sorry, and I think Haney looked off of. We were supposed to go to Devin Hester, and Haney looked away because Charles Woodson was on him. Well, Woodson fell down. So he's wide open in the end zone to tie the game or go for the win. And that's how close it is, right? I mean, like you're saying, I mean, as good as that Green Bay team was, we were with our third string quarterback, because you remember now Collins came in too, right?
Yeah.
And he came in there. Typical of my Bears career, snapping at 3 guys in one game. But he came in there, and you eventually start to think it's you, right? Like, gosh, it must be me, man. But he came in there, and Caleb played tough, man. He played really good football. Brought us back in that game, and really, if not his pick 6 to B.J. Raji, we're up in that game, right? That's how good our defense played, right? We only lost by 1, but their defense scored a touchdown.
You're right.
Oh, I want to take this in a little bit of a different direction, because this question's been bugging. You played on the offensive side of the ball. You were a center. You've been out for a little while now. Let me ask you this: how has a guy like Khalil Mack change the National Football League in the way it's played?
Well, Khalil Mack's a great player, right? So that guy is just he's a special talent, man. Strong as they come, hard to block. So, I don't know. He's just unbelievable, really.
So, do you think a guy like him? Do you think people like him are not necessarily the same talent level, but just the same play style? Do you think that play style changed the way the game is played at that level?
Oh yeah, for sure. He changes every game, and you have to count for him. I watched the Rams basically change their whole game plan just for Khalil Mack. They couldn't block him, and they knew it, right? And when he would go off the field, they would run their offense, and then when he come back on the field, they'd run a whole nother version of the offense with 2 tight ends blocking him with the right tackle, because they knew if they left him alone, he would actually wreck their whole game plan. So he changes the whole game. He makes the Bears defense that much better than they are. And when you match him up with Akeem Hicks, I mean, I remember they played the Cowboys one year, and I was sitting in the stands because they honored Urlacher at halftime. So I was sitting in the stands with Roberto Garza. I don't know if you guys remember the name, but Roberto Garza played for Falcons, played for us for 10 years. Really good football player. I looked at him and I said, I would not want to block those 2 animals. Like you don't have an answer for those 2 guys, because Akeem Hicks is a monster in his own right. Now you got them right next to each other. And when they run a TE and Khalil Mack comes around that side, I mean, I'll be honest with you, as a center, man, I think I'm cutting him at that moment.
Oh my gosh.
Olin, I got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
So for the Super Bowl game, you guys got 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. So I'm wondering how you guys felt with the momentum that you guys started to build up, and then how did that eventually end up to you guys not getting back into the end zone the rest of the game?
That's a really good question. And to be honest with you, it's one of the very few games that I haven't brought myself to go back and really watch the whole thing, because it hurts like hell losing that game. But Devin Hester takes that opening kickoff back, man. I mean, you just think we're going to win this game. But it's funny, as an analyst now, when I study like Super Bowls and how teams get to Super Bowls and what teams win Super Bowls, you start to realize our chances of being a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback are very low, right? Those are the guys who win a Super Bowl. You go through the years. I think Foles, the last 10 years, I think Foles is the only guy who's kind of an odd guy there who won the Super Bowl, but he didn't even play the whole year. And then Baltimore, Flacco would be the other one. Other than that, you're looking at Hall of Fame quarterbacks. They want them every other year since like 2008 or 2007 or something. It might even go farther back than that. I just haven't studied it that far back. But then we bust out a 60-yard run with Thomas Jones, right? And really, we leave that game with Thomas averaging 7 yards a carry, right? So we ran the ball well. We ran the ball well all through the playoffs. I would have to go back to give you an honest answer on that and really watch the film and break it down and see what happened to us and what they did. I know Bob Sanders, their safety, we ran a weak side zone play out of nickel. He was 12 yards off the line of scrimmage, and this guy obviously was all pro that year. He ended up making a tackle 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage and causing a fumble on Cedric Benson. I think Cedric hurt his knee, and that was a big part of our offense, that two-man run game with Cedric Benson and Thomas Jones. So losing Ced early, Ced went out, I think, in the first or second quarter, really changed the game plan. We made a run, that whole run. If you look at the stats there, obviously Thomas Jones, a really good running back, went on even to the Jets and had a great couple, 2 or 3 years. Cedric was getting about 20 carries a game, and he was a hammer now. Cedric was a horse. Another guy, rest in peace, but he was a horse, man. He was a horse, and he hammered defenses, and he wore them out. I used to, guys, if I knew Cedric was behind me in the first quarter, I would block the nose guard and then let him go off and hit Cedric, because that would wear him out. He took Vince Wilfork out of the game in New England. He hit him. That's how hard Cedric Benson ran the ball. It was unbelievable.
Man, he had a hot minute in Green Bay when I was covering the Packers at the Journal-Sentinel, and like, if he didn't get injured, I think it was like week 3 or 4, he got hurt. He was going to be a monster that year.
Oh yeah. I mean, remember with the Bengals, he had a great couple of years. The Bengals, man, he never really got going with us for all kinds of reasons. But when he ran the ball, and it just like you're saying, the year they traded Thomas, which wasn't a good trade, but they traded Thomas Jones to the Jets. Cedric was, I think we were playing the Giants. This might have been the year they won the Super Bowl. And Cedric had 100+ yards rushing, and then he broke his fibula.
Wow.
That was the year they won the Super Bowl. I looked at that stat the other day. I was like, what is this guy?
I mean, he was a strange personality, obviously, like a little different dude.
Welcome to the NFL, right? Welcome to the NFL, yeah.
But he had the talent.
Yeah. Well, guys, I got about 5 more minutes here, so give it to me.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for hanging this long, Olin. You're the man.
Man.
I don't want to take up any
random one.
Go ahead.
So on social media, you would see memes of Jay Cutler like smoking a cigarette, or just like jokes about him not living like the healthiest lifestyle. from your period of time with him, what do you guys say about that? Could you
about Jay living a healthy lifestyle?
Yeah, like, I mean, was he a player?
I think he did. Now, I didn't really follow him that closely about what he is eating and stuff, but I think he has diabetes, right? So I think he had to. I think he had to live a different health style, and I think he did take care of himself, and he stayed in decent shape. I think those. I don't want to say this wrong. I am 44 years old, so is it memes or memes or memes or whatever they're called? I think those are more like his attitude, right? Like the smoking the cigarettes, like, Jay doesn't give a shit about much, which so sometimes that part was true. Yes. As you can see, even with his reality show, he doesn't care about much, but Jay was not, I don't want to make him, he was not a bad human being at all. He's just, just football wise, when you trade that much for somebody, you're just hoping they're taking you to the promised land. And so I think that's where a lot of the frustration comes from.
So can Nagy turn everything around, and is Justin Fields the answer?
I guess my answer to you there is I hope on both of those. I don't know much. I don't get a lot of college film, so I don't get to watch Justin Fields. I know he's an amazing talent. I know his background. I know Ohio State. I watched him struggle against Northwestern and what Pat Fitzgerald did to him there in that game. Pat runs a lot of NFL concepts, and he struggled against that. So it'd be interesting when he gets to the NFL. Coach Nagy now, he came here as an offensive guy. He came here to fix the offense. Obviously, he came here as a quarterback whisperer. They've had a lot of quarterback coaches in that building. I think they set the world record the last 3 years for the amount of quarterback coaches they actually had in the building. Mitch Trubisky is not here anymore. I don't know who you blame for that lack of development. They are since 2014. They played the Rams in 2018. They played the Rams in week 14 in 38, 39 games. They're averaging less than 18 points a game. That's a problem. They can't score points. So Coach Nagy's got to eventually figure out that offense if he's going to be the guy here. And you can't sell me that this defense is going to be better without Vic Fangio, without Chuck Pagano.
Love it. Love it. Hey, last one for you, Olin. Just in the media, I'm just fascinated by it as a longtime Bear, a legend, one of the best players in team history. Like when you're on The Score, when you're on NBC Chicago, like do you feel like what you just said there is awesome to hear, because it's what you believe. It's real. It's raw. Can you be like that all the time? Like, do you feel like, since I played for the Bears, I kind of have to maybe cushion this, cushion that? And how do you approach your job on the dark side with us in the media?
Yeah, I don't think I cushion it because I play for the Bears. I think you cushion it because you know how hard they're working, right? And even though someone may not be doing a great job, and also you know how hard it is what they're trying to do, right? It's not easy to win in the NFL. It's not easy to win a Super Bowl. I know how many hours these guys put in. Coach Nagy now, this guy probably knows more about football and offensive concepts than you could imagine. I mean, I know what the kind of work he puts in. So that's more why you cushion it, because you know what they're doing there. You know what kind of life they're living. You know they're giving everything they got to try to win for the city. And at the same time, you're trying to balance that with being honest and where you think they're getting it wrong. So the cushioning for me is not because I was a former Bear. The cushioning for me is because I'm a former ball player. I do radio and I do TV because I don't want to do the work coaches do in that building, right? So they do hours and hours of work and hours of film study. And I come on there and I criticize them, and I got the easiest job in the world, right? I point out what they did wrong, but you cushion it because, like you guys know, if you spend any time and you ever done anything, I coached Little League football for almost 10 years. You ever done anything in football, you put together a game plan and it's just Little League. Gosh, did I call a lot of wrong plays? Does it take a lot of time to get them to do the right thing, to install offenses, to come up with a plan, to do a chess match on the field? So anyway, a lot of respect for what they do, but you still got to be honest.
Love it. Love it. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out with us on a Friday night, Olin. You got 6 kids and you're hanging out with us degenerates. So we appreciate it. We appreciate
no problem,
it.
Man.
Thanks so
all you gotta do is offer me to talk football and I'll do it. Appreciate it, guys, man. Have a great night.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
Awesome.
What a dude.